Greetings, friends. Today on Life Pages, I'm going to share a story about a determined daughter, a stubborn father, and a chance encounter that will change the course of their lives forever. So let's begin. You think you're the smartest one here, trying to tell me how to run my business after all these years, Alexander barked, his voice filled with frustration. Sophia wasn't backing down. That's right, Dad. All these years, and you've been doing it the same way for 2 decades. It's a new era you need to change and adapt if you want to see real profit. You've been stuck in the same rut for so long, you can't even give your employees a raise. Sophia, I'm telling you again, mind your own business. The workers don't deserve a raise. Just look at how lazy they are, defective products everywhere. Sophia jumped up, her face flushed with determination. Arguing with her father was never easy, but she couldn't stay silent any longer. Of course, because the only people willing to work for such low pay are those no one else will hire. What good, responsible worker would take a job with wages like that? Alexander slammed his fist on the table. That's it. I made a huge mistake letting you work at my factory. Sophia, wearied by the constant battles, replied, I can leave. It's just not interesting to work somewhere with no prospects. No prospects at my company? What are you talking about? I have a multi-million-dollar revenue stream. So what? Sophia shot back. If you did things properly, it would be profit, not just revenue. Are you short on cash? Alexander squinted. What does that have to do with anything? You need to expand, not stand still. And you're one to talk. At least I worked my way up. I started out as a janitor, you know. Alexander turned away from his daughter, expecting her to apologize and embrace him, but Sophia stood her ground. Maybe I should become a janitor too, so you'll finally listen to me. What did I waste 6 years of my life getting a degree, doing an overseas internship, and graduating with honors for? I guess it's all worthless if I didn't start as a custodian. Alexander's face turned red with anger. Yes, Sophia. That's exactly what I think. Don't like it? Tough. You want me to listen to your nonsense ideas? Go work as a janitor for at least a month, and then I'll consider it. It's easy to try and change something that already exists. Why don't you start from scratch instead? Sophia's eyes flashed with determination. She was her father's daughter, after all, stubborn and proud. Her mother, before she passed away, always used to laugh about how alike they were. You know, I used to think you were the most stubborn one, Dad, but now I'm not so sure who the bigger jackass is. She slammed her own fist on the table. You've got a deal, Dad. I'll let you know tomorrow where I get a janitor job. Sophia stormed out of the office, slamming the door loudly behind her. Alexander flinched, then glanced guiltily at the photo of his late wife on his desk. Lydia, you see? It's not my fault, she's just as stubborn as me. The man sighed, knowing deep down that his daughter was largely right, and he was even glad she understood his business so well. But he just couldn't admit he was wrong. His pride wouldn't allow it. She's young and hot-headed. She'll cool off eventually, and things will go back to normal. But I probably do need to think about raising wages. Alexander had been noticing an increase in product defects lately. He poked his head out to his secretary. Olivia, get all the production managers and the CFO in here. He went back and sat down. Yeah, I've been operating like it's still the 90s around here. Time to make some gradual changes, I suppose. He reached for his phone to call his daughter, but then put it back down. Can't give her the satisfaction. I'm the father, I'm older, that automatically means I'm right. Doesn't it? Before he could ponder that further, there was a knock at the door. Meanwhile, Sophia was driving, her frustration bubbling over. How can I get it through Dad's thick skull that he's wrong? She pulled over near an office building, her anger threatening to overwhelm her. Sophia knew her tendency when upset to floor the gas pedal and make the car skid out of control. But she resisted. She didn't allow herself to do that because her mum had been killed by a reckless driver, much like the one she could become in these moments. She got out, took several deep breaths, and froze. Right in front of her was a sign advertising a temporary janitor position to cover for someone on vacation. The anger melted away instantly, replaced by a small smile. Sophia got back into her car, pulled around the corner, and adjusted her appearance. She pulled her luxurious hair back into a bun, took off all her jewelry, and looked at her hands. Yeah, no hiding the manicure, but people take care of themselves nowadays. I could always say I'm still in school, and this is just a side job. Satisfied with her look, Sophia headed into the office building. Hi there, I saw you were looking for a temporary janitor. The receptionist gave her a once-over. Are you sure you want to work as a janitor? Yeah, no better options for me right now while I take evening classes. The woman's eyes warmed. I see, wanting to support yourself. Got it. 10 minutes later, Sophia was being shown her duties mopping floors, dusting plants, taking out the trash cans and recycling bins. It was pretty straightforward dirt and grime, nothing she couldn't handle. So you're not going to quit on me, are you? Nope, no way. When can I start? Tomorrow at 8 a.m. You need to have the boss's office and the areas where people work cleaned up before 9 a.m. He hates having staff underfoot while he's working. Got it, I understand. That evening, Sophia and her father barely spoke. He tried to start a conversation, but she gave him the cold shoulder. The next morning, as she was tying her shoes, her dad poked his head out of the bathroom. Where are you going so early? To work, Daddy. I'm going to be a janitor for a month, so you'll finally listen to me. Oh, Sophia, don't be ridiculous. She turned and walked out without a word. Alexander shook his head. Sometimes he was proud of how similar his daughter was to him. Other times he just wanted to cry at her stubbornness. Sophia worked the first week without much fanfare. No one bothered her, everyone was busy with their own tasks. She saw the boss a couple of times, he was always working and paid her no attention. She learned that the boss, Ethan, was actually quite young. His father had fallen ill, so Ethan took over running the company. People seemed to speak well of him, saying he didn't understand everything yet but was consulting experts and learning quickly. Sophia was mopping Ethan's office floor when the door opened. She instinctively glanced at her watch, 8:30 a.m. Who was coming in at this hour? It was Ethan, and he looked at her in surprise. Oh, hello there. Who are you? Sophia couldn't help but smile. What? You can't tell? I'm the janitor here, she sang out the last few words in an exaggerated rural accent. Ethan laughed. Well, yes, I can see you're cleaning, but I don't recall seeing you around before. You were just too busy to notice me, that's all. Ethan walked over to his desk and sat down. Sophia glanced at him inquisitively. Should I finish up and leave you be? No, please go ahead and don't mind me. He started going through some papers. After a few minutes, he swore under his breath. Who came up with this nonsense? Sophia, who was dusting, glanced over at his mess of documents and paperwork. Well, if you don't use proper reporting, how can you track if everything is going smoothly? Ethan looked at her with an amused expression. You know something about this stuff. She shrugged a little. I've never seen a janitor who could advise management before, he said with a patronizing tone. What? Just because someone is a janitor, that automatically means they must be stupid? Sophia shot back, her irritation growing. Ethan was openly entertained now. Well, I'd think any reasonably intelligent person, let alone an educated one, wouldn't choose that as their career, you know. Sophia thought so too, but her innate stubbornness was overriding her common sense again. I can definitely tell you that you're mistaken about that, she said, as she gathered her supplies and headed for the door. Ethan watched her go with a smile. God, he hated these ditzy girls who just assumed everything should be handed to them for being pretty, and this one was more of the same, all swagger and no brain. He leaned back in his chair. Although, great ass on that one. If she wasn't pulling this weird stunt, I might consider asking her out. The next morning, Sophia arrived before dawn and quickly got to work in Ethan's office. But despite her early start, he still managed to arrive before she was done, setting his jacket on the chair and looking at her with raised eyebrows. Do you deliberately come to work so early? I like mornings, she said without turning around. Why do you come in so early? I want to make sure everything is in order, he said, looking pointedly at her. Sophia sighed. No worries, one more swipe with the mop, and I'm out of your way. Ethan smiled at her dry wit. She wasn't exactly the shy type. What do you do when you're not cleaning up after us? I go to school, Sophia said as she walked to the door. Ethan couldn't help himself. And what are you studying? Economics, she said, locking eyes with him. Economics, he echoed. Wow, that's a surprise. Why is that? Sophia was starting to get annoyed again. An economics student working as a janitor. Isn't that a bit strange? Sophia rolled her eyes. I'm paying my own way through school, unlike some. Ethan chuckled. I admire that, actually. Good for you. She just nodded curtly and left, but inwardly she couldn't help but smile at his remark. It was nice to be appreciated for her work ethic, even if she was just playing a role for now. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about her. Something about this girl intrigued him, and he couldn't figure out what it was. Every time they spoke, she left him wanting more. That evening, Sophia's father called her. Sophia, are you really working as a janitor? I thought you were just saying that to get back at me. No, Dad, I'm working as a janitor, as promised. So maybe after this you'll consider hearing me out. Her father sighed. Sophia, I don't know what to say. You've always been determined, but this is too much. Well, Dad, you wanted me to prove myself, didn't you? He stayed quiet, not knowing how to respond. After a moment, he said, All right, Sophia. I'm proud of you, you know that? But I'm also worried. She smiled, touched by his concern. I'll be fine, Dad. I promise. As the weeks went by, Sophia and Ethan continued their early morning conversations. Each time she revealed a little more about her life, and he found himself more and more captivated by her. He couldn't help but admire her tenacity and intelligence. One day, as she was about to leave his office, Ethan stopped her. Sophia, I'd like to ask you something. She turned to face him. What is it? Would you consider going out with me sometime? Sophia was taken aback. She hadn't expected that at all. You're asking the janitor out on a date. He smiled. I'm asking a smart, hard-working woman out on a date. Titles don't matter to me. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled back. All right, Ethan. I'll think about it. As she walked out of his office, she couldn't help but feel a strange sense of excitement. Maybe this little experiment of hers was leading to something unexpected after all. And who knows? Perhaps the strong-willed daughter and the stubborn father might finally find common ground, not just in business but in life as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Life Pages for more inspiring stories. See you next time.